We are going back to basketball for our basketball guys, but if you didn't get enough baseball talk today, we got one more topic, and we have the Ultimate Guardians hosted by Adam the Bull and Zach Meisel every Monday morning, pretty much around 9 to 10 o'clock in the morning. You can go check them out and subscribe to our channel to get notified when they do go live. Mike, you ready for this?
Let's do it. We saw some crazy trades in the NBA yesterday. The Celtics unloaded Drew Holiday and Kristaps Porzingis to get under the second apron of the luxury tax. We saw Jordan Poole head over to New Orleans. C.J. McCollum went to Washington. We saw the Desmond Bane deal in the past. Ant had asked me, with all the movement, and we also saw, there's another trade that I'm forgetting, but there's been a bunch of NBA trades the last couple of days. Ant had asked me with the Celtics moves yesterday, with the Magic move yesterday, with the report that Phoenix had called the Cavs for Kevin Durant and Darius Garland, some sort of conversation in that realm. If you think the Cavs were done big game hunting, Jason, and I told them, okay, well, at least discuss it. Jason, do you think the Cavs are done, or Dustin, do you think the Cavs are done big game hunting to start off here? Or?
Yeah, I do, just because it would take them pretty much giving up on Evan Mobley at this point in time, and they're not going to do that, I don't think. Mobley, I mean, I don't love Mobley as much as most people do. I would rather have Giannis than
I think we all would
than Evan Mobley.
In that regard.
But it would take a lot to get him, and I just don't think this organization is going to do that right now. What do you think it would take to get Giannis, by the way? Obviously, it's a package centered around Evan Mobley.
We could, from a financial standpoint, it is so incredibly difficult because, A, they can't aggregate salaries to get to Giannis unless they got so much more money over Giannis's contract than they ended up under the second apron, which means you'd have to dump 2 or 3 guys to get under the second apron before you could start that conversation. Then it would start with Mobley and his extension, which kicks in, which I think is $43 million. Giannis is making $55-ish next year. So it'd be Mobley plus something to then get to Milwaukee. But then if you do that trade and you aggregate, then you're hard capped at the second apron, which means you have to fill out the rest of your roster under the second apron, which would mean you would have $12-ish million to sign 8 guys, which is barely enough to do 8 veteran minimum guys or however whatever that number is. So it's incredibly difficult from a financial standpoint if Giannis were to say, I want out, but I want to stay in the East. Could Cleveland be a possible destination? Could it happen? It could, but it's like jumping through 15 hula hoops at once.
Yeah, I don't see it happen. First of all, I think you have to have a conversation with Giannis. Do you want to be here? If you don't want to be here, then it's really hard to make that trade. So that's number one. And then number two, what would you take? What would you give up? I give up close to anything to get him. He's an MVP candidate. As much as I believe in Evan Mobley and believe that he has the potential and the runway to turn into one of those guys.
Giannis is
already there.
Yeah.
And he's still pretty close to the prime of his career, and he's under team control. I think he's got 2 years left on his deal and then a player option. So, and that sort of fits in that window that we keep talking about. The Cavs have 2 years. They have 2 years before they sort of wind up in the same spot that you see Boston in right now. So if that means Evan Mobley, then, so be it. But it's not that simple, as Mike alluded to. It's a lot more complicated than that. And I can't even sit here. I'm not going to sit here and pretend to know the path that it would take to do it because it's a lot of moving parts. I think that the Cavs are who they are. This is the team they're more than likely going to bring back. I think they are probably listening and should be listening on a lot of things. But ultimately, it's so hard to make big moves right now because of where they've positioned themselves that I just don't think, is it possible? Sure. Is it realistic? I don't think so.
To give you like the actual names in theory to make a deal like this work, so it's all would be for Giannis, right?
Yeah.
You'd have to dump Wade and Okoro to get under the second apron, right? So that they're gone. Then in theory, just to make the money work, I'm not saying it, but just saying to get to that $50-ish million, Garland, and then either Strus or Hunter, something like that. And this is if you're not including Mobley. If you want to switch Mobley for Garland, sure, but basically that money works.
Okay.
And then you'd have a bunch of veteran minimums to fill out the rest of your roster. So at a minimum, you'd be losing Okoro, Wade, Hunter, Garland for Giannis, just to make the money work as a starter. So then you're filling out the rest of your roster with minimum guys. It could happen. And for Giannis, Like I think you break down all walls for Giannis, but it's a lot easier said than it is to actually complete.
It really comes down to what Milwaukee wants.
Yeah.
And if I'm Milwaukee, I want Evan over anything else that the Cavs have. So making the money match, actually, I don't think is that hard because, I mean, Dean Wade is not as hard to dump as Okoro is. Dean's only got 1 year left, $6.5 million. He's a big who can shoot, who can rebound and defend. Like, there's a market for him. If they need to move off that money, they can. And then I believe you can. Am I messing this up? You could just attach Okoro and Mobley together to make the money work on Giannis.
Well,
because it would be right around $54 million.
But just dumping Dean doesn't get you onto the second apron.
So you'd have to dump Okoro into a separate, because Okoro with Mobley gets you to Giannis. But I see what you're saying. But so this is sort of the machinations
and
that
that's
we're
by the
talking
way,
about.
that's before you re-sign Jerome and Merrill. So all those guys are gone too. By the way, they're out of the equation.
Yeah, I mean, you're going to have a team of Donovan Mitchell and Giannis, and then a bunch of just slappies.
And Darius.
And Darius in this instance. Yeah.
So it's still Giannis. Like, you're going to give yourself a chance, and you still have Donovan and Darius.
Yeah, but all these teams this year were doing it with like 6-7 guys.
And that's the one thing Sam Presti said after the championship I saw, is that he believes the future of the NBA is more in depth.
Yeah.
And that goes back to the conversation we've had multiple times where it was such a top-heavy league and a star-driven league. Is he right? Are they ahead of the curve on this, and it is more about depth? You can say it's about depth, but when they get to the finals, were they playing 9 and 10 guys in Game 7? No.
Played 7, sprinkled in 8, but both rotations shortened up a little bit.
Yeah. So you can say it's about depth, and it is about depth to get you there, but in the moment, you still want your best guys on the floor. It's always going to be about playing your best guys in championship rounds.
If the Cavs are going to still big game hunt, whether it's Giannis, one name I would look at potentially is Jaylen Brown. We talked about the Celtics dumping all the salary. Are they done? The Celtics got under the second apron, but they're still a tax team. If they want to completely reset their books, they have to get under the luxury tax line. There could be with another 15 different financial hoops to jump through a Jaylen Brown potential trade. Kobe Altman in the past has operated in the shadows on these kind of deals. It's been for players that, frankly, we didn't even know were on the market, and next thing you know, they end up in Cleveland. So, I mentioned Jaylen Brown, I mentioned Giannis, both highly unlikely, but it could be another star that no one's even thought of yet. That could be the real target if Kobe and the front office are big game hunting. But as Jason and I talked about on the Cavs show this morning, if there's a deal out there that Cleveland loves, that they think makes their team better, first apron, second apron, third apron, fourth apron, fifth apron, sixth apron, be damned. They'll find the way to make the move. But just because Boston was able to get under the second apron yesterday doesn't mean all the ramifications and the fear of the second apron is.
But Boston got on the second. I should have made this point this morning. Boston got on the second apron by trading some key pieces.
Oh, that was my point. It's two different situations. Boston's end goal was not to get better. Boston's end goal was to shed money.
Disassemble.
The Cavs' end goal is to get better and win a championship. So looking at what Boston did and saying, oh, Boston did it, the Cavs can do it too. Well, the Cavs can get under the second apron easily, but it involves dumping Jared Allen and dumping off Cora Wade and
guys
stuff
you need, guys that
doesn't
help you
actually
get
make
here,
you better.
Yeah, it's two different
the Celtics
worlds.
turned Porzingis into Niang. I love George. George's my guy. He's going home to play in Boston. He's thrilled about the move.
Of course.
But he ain't Kristaps Porzingis.
No.
We did a show a couple weeks ago, the Cavs show, where we talked about the core of the next 5 years out, and I picked Atlanta. And now they went and added Porzingis. I'm not saying that's a move for 5 years from now. Who knows if he'll even be upright in 5 years. He's been hurt so much, but I really like what Atlanta's doing. They're long, athletic, they get up and down the floor, and now they add Porzingis to that. He's got a lot of long injury history, but if you get him out there for the right games, man, that is a great fit with Trae Young.
If they had any other point guard but Trae Young, I'd be all in on the Hawks.
You can't stand Trae Young.
I just don't think he plays winning basketball in any form, fashion, shape. It just doesn't.
Yeah.
I'll be sadly proven wrong, but I'm pretty sure I'll be right on this one.
I mean, it's funny how quickly things can flip, because right now I think you can remove Boston. I think you remove Milwaukee from this. Who are the top teams in the East right now? Cleveland,
Orlando,
Atlanta,
Knicks.
Indiana. You got to put
Knicks.
Indiana in there. And the Knicks.
And Detroit.
And Detroit. I mean, look how fast that's flipped from where it was a year ago. And who knows? I mean, 6 months from now, we may have a completely different view on this.
It would not surprise me if Detroit made some sort of big move tonight.
Where are they picking? Do you know?
Don't even know. Don't even care. I don't think they don't have a lottery pick. They're somewhere in the 18 to 22-ish range.
Right, yeah.
But that's a team that has cap space, which is huge because you can take on some extra parts.
Mm-hmm.
Future assets to deal any young pieces. Maybe a Jaden Ivey who was hurt in the middle of last season, who was playing well, by the way, then got hurt. I thought they were going to be on the Durant deal. Durant clearly didn't want to go to Detroit. He wanted to go to Houston. That's why he ended up in Houston. But they're a team that I think has the assets to make a gigantic swing if they want to. And they've been so bad for so long. At some point, you just got to say, screw it, let's go.
Yeah.
I could see Detroit being a team that makes a big push for a name either tonight or sometime before the start of next season.
A lot of movements coming this summer. We've already seen it, and there's more moves to come. It's going to be a flurry of transactions, I think, in this NBA offseason as teams sort of adapt to this new world.
Do you think we're going to get a lot of draft night chaos?
Boy, I'd like that.
I haven't followed it closely enough to give you an educated answer on that, but it's possible. I think there's, just because of the names that are out there and just because of the way teams are maneuvering right now and some of the what's available out there, yeah, I think there could be.
Can I give you 2 teams to watch tonight?
You just did one.
Well, 3 teams to watch. The Thunder have 15 guys on under contract for next season.
Their whole
already.
entire team is
Their
back.
entire team's under contract.
Yeah.
You cannot have 16 contracts. So
And they got 2 ones.
Yeah, they have 15 and 24. They're going to trade into I would almost bet whatever the max amount you could that the Thunder end up in the lottery packaging 15, 24, and a future pick to get into the top 10.
But who's the team that wants out of the top 10? That wants to drop that low? That's the thing.
I can name a couple.
Okay.
And then the Nets, who have 5 first-round picks.
That's nuts.
They have 5 picks tonight.
And they still have cap space.
Yep.
I don't remember now offhand how much after yesterday.
50. No, because they took Terrence Mann back, and he makes, what's 47 divided by 3? 15 and a half. So they have 35 million in cap space, 37 million-ish in cap space.
So they could be.
And 5 first-round picks. They have 8, a couple in the teens, and then 3 in the 20s. So 18, and then 22, 26, and 27. They're going to try moving up, whether it's from 8 to 3 or 4,
Yeah.
or from 17 plus 22 and 26 to 12 or 13. You can't have 5 rookies on your team.
No.
It's not possible.
Mike, you think the Thunder are going to repeat next year?
I think they should be absolutely considered the favorites.
Yeah. Like heavy favorites
yeah,
or just the favorites?
Heavy favorites, just considering the uncertainty in the East with 2 of their top guys out. I know the West's a gauntlet, but those guys are young, and I didn't think they even played that well in the playoffs.
They didn't.
Like, they got out-rebounded in 3 of the 4
They didn't
series.
play that well in Game 7.
They were the 13th best three-point shooting team in the playoffs. I thought their offense got stagnant at times. It was way too much ISO for SGA and Jalen Williams. If some of those role guys can take a next step offensively, if Chet Holmgren can become a little more consistent.
Yeah, because he wasn't with him the whole year, Chet, right?
He only played
came
30
back,
regular
came
season
back
games,
from injury, yeah.
He was hurt.
I think they have a chance to be really, 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 really good again.
I would make them the favorite in the West, but if I had to pick right now, I mean, first of all, let's wait and see what these teams look like come October, because I still think there's more movement to go.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
The West is
good.
West is good. The West is really, really good. I think they would have a harder time getting out of the West than they would probably winning the whole thing again. So I don't know that I would pick them. They would not be my pick to repeat, just because I'm just going on history. It's been, 7 years?
7 years, yeah. They started, or the FanDuel way too early championship odds next year came out, Dustin. They were plus 220.
Were they really?
They should
which was
be.
the shortest odds
Still.
for any team to repeat
And
in
they
the
should
last
be.
decade.
Yeah, they should be. But
the Cavs were second, by the way.
you just never know with
Really?
injuries. They do have the depth you would think to withstand, even if it's a key guy.
It's really hard to repeat. Like,
yeah.
it's really, 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 really hard to repeat.
Yeah.
Does Halliburton's going to miss the entire year, right?
all year.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah. Yeah. So
Yep.
I mean that sort of changes some things for the Cavs, right? I mean, if you're not really worried about the Pacers without Halliburton, are you?
I'm not taking the Pacers lightly ever again. If Rick Carlisle's the coach,
You're both right. You're both right. They would be in my top half, but they're not
You saw that team in the second half.
Yeah, the Cavs are to me, the Cavs are the favorite right now in the East.
Yeah.
And it's just so funny because we've talked about this before. I just feel like the public discourse around the Cavs is so awful compared to what their reality is. It was an awful end. It was a horrible end. But
It's a historic season.
they're still a really good team.
Yeah.
And to me, they're still.
Do you think
they're
that
the
they
favorites.
lose that series to the Pacers if Garland doesn't have the banged up toe?
I think if they're healthy, I think they win the series.
So do I.
And I mean, we're probably in the minority on that, but I think if they're healthy, they win the series.
Yeah, I think they go to the finals.
I mean, if they just get the ball across half court in game 2, it's a different series.
Yeah.
Because now when you get blown out in game 4,
It's 2-2.
you're 2-2 coming home. You're like, all right, cool, that's fine. We got home court. But as it was, because you lost game 2 and the way they lost game 2, you get blown out in 4, and now you're down 3-1 coming home, and it feels like it's all over.
Right.
So game 2, man,
It's crucial.
it was the swing.
Ant, you had a question?
Yeah, I'm just curious. Who of the top 10 picks do you actually think will trade out? Looking at these 10 teams, I feel like they all want to be up there.
I need to see
Yeah,
the
I mean, a
draft
lot
order.
of these guys and
Can
teams.
read them off to you if you want.
Yeah, like,
Jason.
so Dallas isn't trading out of 1. They're taking Cooper Flagg.
Yep.
San Antonio's going to take Dylan Harper. 3's the Sixers. I can see the Sixers trading out of 3. I absolutely can see them trading out. Now, I don't think they trade back to 14, but possibly to 8 with Brooklyn. If they could get Cam Johnson 2 future firsts and 8 for 3, I think that's a move that would work. 4 is the Hornets, correct?
Yeah.
They're probably not trading out. They just need talent.
I could see Utah being aggressive at 5.
I could see Utah being aggressive at 5 as well, going either way, either picking up more assets for the future, because the number 1 prospect in next year's class is a kid named A.J. DeBonsa, who's committed to BYU. He's had a $7 million BYU NIL deal, who's from Utah. You know how hard it is to get players who want to come to Utah? Well, this kid was born in Utah. This kid is going to college in Utah. He could be the savior of Utah's franchise in theory, so you want as much ammo as possible to try and get him. So that's a team I could see. 6 is New Orleans, right? No, 6 is Washington.
Washington.
They're probably going to take a player.
They should trade out. That if you're looking like the Thunder, who's the partner for them, I think it's 6 or 7, Washington or New Orleans. Both are such a mess right now. They could use the extra draft capital. I could see either one of those teams being the teams that would try and dip out.
And New Orleans, who just made the trade, C.J. McCollum for Jordan Poole, they took on a much, money-wise, it was similar, but Poole has 2 more years under contract compared to McCollum. So getting those future assets could be beneficial to their cap sheet down the road. Brooklyn's going to want to move up, not down.
Right.
Toronto's at 9, if I remember correctly. Who knows what Toronto would want to do, and who's at 10?
Houston just traded it to Phoenix.
I mean, Phoenix may try and acquire even more assets considering where they're at. So there are a couple options, but I would expect, like I said, the Nets are going to potentially be active. I think the Sixers are the number 1 trade around candidate, and the Thunder, they can't draft 2 first-round picks. And by the way, not only do they have 2 first-round picks, they took Topic last year with the 14th pick.
That's insane.
Who,
I
if he
know.
was healthy, would have been a top 5 pick. Only fell to 14 because he was hurt
Yep.
and wasn't going to play all season. So they have a top 5 pick from last year who's now going to be healthy again next
Yep.
season. I don't even know if they have minutes for him. Like, they're loaded. And